All right, this is the Village of Peotone Board meeting for February 10th, 2014. We begin by rising to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Riker.
Here.
Mr. Hupke.
Here.
Mr. Wicker.
Here.
Mr. Hack.
Here.
Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Forsythe.
Here.
Okay, let the record show that all trustees are present. We have a quorum and may officially conduct business. First order of business being the approval or correction of the January 27, 2014 regular village board meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion. Second.
Motion by trustee Hupke, second by trustee Forsythe to approve the January 27, 2014 minutes as presented. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Hupke.
Yes.
Mr. Forsythe.
Yes.
Mr. Callahan.
Yes.
Mr. Hack.
Yes.
Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Mr. Riker.
Yes.
Motion carries. Minutes approved to become the official record of the January 27, 2014 meeting. Next item on the agenda are the accounts payable and the payroll. Trustees, in your packet is the payroll for the pay period ending February 1st of 2014 in the amount of $48,084.23. Also, under accounts payable, from the general fund, bills totaling $46,434.17, and from the water and sewer fund, bills totaling $29,561.80. Grand total for the general fund and water sewer fund bills is $55,995.97. I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills.
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
Motion by trustee Wicker, seconded by trustee Riker to pay the bills as presented. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Mr. Riker.
Yes.
Mr. Forsythe.
Yes.
Mr. Callahan.
Yes.
Mr. Hack.
Yes.
Mr. Hupke.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, the bills paid as noted. Public comment and or questions. If anybody is here for any non-agenda item, now would be the time to go to the microphone and speak. Okay, with that, I'm interpreting it as everyone here is on the agenda later. We're going to move on to reports of committees, and the chief, any report?
Not really, just
All-
cold.
Just cold.
outside. Looks like it's gonna be cold tomorrow.
And probably the day after that, too. All right. Engineers report?
I have nothing new to report.
No updates on anything, okay? There is nothing under old business. Under new business, we're going to move to the farmer's market schedule. George, you want to introduce that?
Yeah, Nicole Green will be present at the meeting representing the group operating the farmer's market this summer. When the board approved the schedule for the market, the day of the car show was excluded from the schedule due to conflicting resources. Farmers Market Group wished to add the day of the car show, July 26th, to the market schedule, and I recommended to give the car show folks some Legion and come back and talk to us. So, they're here.
Well, we weren't able to get a hold of Todd because the number we have is not working.
Oh.
And then Sue, I left a message for her, so the Legion, which I've talked to Sue previously, and I don't foresee that.
Bob C. Bob C. is the man you talk to.
Bob C. Okay, can I get contact information?
He's at the Legion every day of the week. In the morning.
Oh, I know Bob. Okay.
That's the guy you talk to.
For the car show?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so,
Chief, did you have something?
You know, if, just leave me your phone number. I tried to get ahold of Todd and I seen we had the wrong number. And I hadn't had a chance to try to run people down. But if you get a hold of me, I'll contact the Legion people and get the link up. I know that, I think Sue I talked to, and, so we can have that and come back to the board at the next meeting with a couple weeks we'll have it all settled. If I just get your phone number
okay.
tonight, and I'll talk to you and I'll make contact with them and get the right number for you.
Okay,
Okay.
and I know Bob too, so I can.
We gave you that number, I apologize for giving you that information.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, the reason we want to have it the same week is because we feel that it'll bring more
But
people, customers.
what would you plan on doing there? You can't close down the street, they use it up.
Well, we were wondering if we could just use railroad, behind it instead, so it's not.
Where are you gonna park the cars? The people that come to the thing. I'm
What time
telling you.
does the car show start?
They start bringing the cars in about 11 in the morning
Okay,
till, I don't know, 8, 9 o'clock at night.
okay, because we have it we have the farmer's market from 8 to noon. So, I mean, we don't want to cause conflict, obviously.
Well, I'm sure you will. I don't know where you're gonna put it, I'm telling you. Because they don't know how many cars they're gonna get. They get cars anywhere from 100 to 200, 250. They do not know how many are gonna show up that day.
Okay,
That's their problem, I'm sure. But talk to Bob.
yeah.
I'm sure you will work it out for you.
Okay.
What size of street space have you used before? Do you anticipate using? I mean, how, in terms of the length of street, I mean, how much are we talking about?
Well, right now, we just have a block,
Okay.
and which we feel that we could easily fit 20 vendors. So we're hoping that, we don't know right now until the end of March is when we have the deadline for the vendors. So we don't know how many vendors we're gonna have at this point.
Would it be problematic to to make it a different location on that particular day?
No, we're totally open to that.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
something maybe adjoining the car show, but not
Yeah.
not on the typical route.
I mean, it sounds like we might just be 2 hours at most with conflicting times. So, yeah, I mean, we're willing to adjust whatever we need to. We just feel that having the customers come, well, if people come to the car show could benefit also for the farmer's market as well.
I don't remember, do they have them on Main Street too, in front of True Valley and all that?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All of North Street, all of.
It's like you say, you don't never know. They
Right.
open up, sometimes you're short if you only got 150 cars. But if you get to 200, 250, they eat up
In
everything.
the last
When's
several
there-
years, it's been,
Yeah, it's been over 200.
When's their deadline for the car entries, or is it the day of?
Day of, and the clubs come in before that, they have both things. They have the standard people that come year after year. They have people that just show up.
yeah.
But there's the possibility, I mean, and there's adjoining streets that perhaps you
I'd
could
just say
consider.
this, and Jerry's right, it's elbow room
Yeah.
only in the downtown area.
Especially the guys that are trailering cars, because
Because
now
they
they
start
park the
lining up, they get,
trailers.
first thing in the morning, they're in town,
Yeah.
and we have to shut off, they start parking those cars, and, it starts early in the morning now. By the Legion across the street, that's where it's most congested.
Yeah.
Where you wanna be in that, that
That's where they
area.
hand out the trophies.
That's
and
where,
things.
they're setting up their tent, and then all the people come in, and, I mean, we'll talk to them, and, but it is a fair weather, the weather's perfect. Last year, they had all downtown filled up, and they had North Street in front of the Legion all the way to, First Street blocked
Yeah.
because of the cars, and everything on Railroad they're triple parked all the way to the crossing. We had to tell the people quit parking next to they got too close to the tracks, because they park everywhere. I mean, it's a tremendous event, but if we can, number one, consider how many vendor spaces you need, how much space. I know it's year one. In March, and this is the later part of July, that may give us a better indication of, it may not, maybe if we could fit you in. So that's there's some unknowns there.
And talk to Bob, maybe the car club board will have some
Yeah.
ideas to work with you, so
So,
Yeah,
maybe you guys can go to one of their meetings and get together with them.
yeah, absolutely.
we'll link it up, and sorry Todd's number was off, because I tried to call him and find out, and I got that from Sue at the Legion, and somehow that number doesn't work anymore. He's not a hard man to find.
Okay,
I'll just get your phone number from you, and then,
okay.
Just an idea too, maybe approaching the dance studio. They have a pretty big parking lot right there, and that keeps you guys close enough to the action.
Or we have the village lot where the Bennett building used to be.
But we park trailers in there.
Do we?
The guys that are bringing the cars in the real car shows.
Those are being
That's
used?
where they put their trailer to get the car off.
Okay.
What about the old Trader Schrader's lot?
Right, actually.
There's another thing too, that's the park district, you know.
Yeah.
But talk to them first, I think they could help you,
Okay,
because I think they're interested in doing that kind of thing.
okay. Yeah, no, but we'd love to have that option.
Yeah, sure they can. You know, I'm sure that if we can find space, we'll indicate, but we don't want to presume anything because it is a very popular event. And they won't be doing a cruise, but they will still have the car show. And it's a great opportunity because everybody's in town if weather's good. If weather's bad, you know, that's bad.
Space is cheap.
And then the Relay for Life is that Friday before the Saturday at the junior high school. That's how those timetables run. So it's a very active weekend.
Okay.
But I'll talk to them and I'll call you and I'll get you, everybody sitting down to talk.
Okay, great.
Prior to next meeting, we'll come back.
Yeah, and I can try to stop it.
So I'd like to make a motion that we table this then to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by trustee Hupkey, second by trustee Forsythe to table this matter till the next meeting. Go ahead.
Mr. Hupkey.
Yes.
Mr. Forsythe.
Yes.
Mr. Callahan.
Yes.
Mr. Heck.
Yes.
Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Mr. Riker.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. This is officially tabled until the next meeting and will appear as old business. Next item on the agenda is inducement agreement with Terry's Ford. George?
Terry's Ford is requesting an inducement agreement in the form of a sales tax rebate for improvements to the site. These improvements are associated with the special use permit recently approved by the board. The scope of work submitted for a reimbursement is attached. Only work listed on the approved scope of work will be eligible for reimbursement under the agreement. The projected cost of the improvements is $1.2 million. The petitioner has requested $750,000 be eligible for rebate. The applicant has submitted his request regarding terms of the agreement. These terms are open to negotiation as determined by the board. The board needs to decide if they are receptive to a rebate, and if so, determine, 1, the base or the amount which is currently being received and not subject to the rebate. Only sales tax revenues exceeding this amount are eligible for rebate. According to documents supplied by the Illinois Department of Revenue, the village received $167,218 in sales tax revenues from the company in the most recent 12-month period and $163,132 for the preceding 12 months. These numbers may be used to determine the base. The term in years is the rebate for 5, 10, or 20 years, or a shorter term with renewal at the option of the village. The cap, or the maximum amount to be rebated over the term of the contract, usually the lesser of a specific dollar amount. In this case, if he's asking for $750,000, that would be the number, or the actual cost of the project, whichever is less. And the format of the payment schedule, X% over X years. The schedule may be a sliding scale, a fixed percentage over several years, or some other schedule. The petitioner has requested a scale beginning with a 90% rebate above the base in year 1, following each year until the rate of 50% over the base is reached. The rate would remain at the level until the cap is reached or the term is ended. The village may adopt a sliding scale or utilize the fixed percentage per year. His requests are attached in the enclosed letter. You have a copy of the letter. So.
I'd like to introduce here on behalf of Terry's Ford is Terry Coombs, who would be the Terry of Terry's Ford.
Correct.
And Dave Carradino.
Yes.
Gentlemen, if you would like to offer any comment or anything at this point in time.
Well, I think it's pretty clear based on the previous meetings we've had, but, you know, we're going to move ahead on this improvement, and we plan to add considerable amount of waiting room. We have a lot of waiters that come in and wait daily now. We have a lot of customers that follow us here from Orland Park, and consequently, we've got to enlarge that waiting room, and also the expansion of a new drive-through right-up area and delivery center for cars, and moving the wash rack will give us additional service space that we sorely need. This $1.2 million that we've agreed to spend, I think it's going to go over budget, but on the other hand, doesn't everything? But but our request is, for the $750,000 and hopefully with as fast a payback as you can allow us to take it. So, and other than that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Trustees, I'm going to open it up for discussion from all of you. We've done these in the past, and we most recently did one for Rowley's when they did a similar type of remodel. And one of the things that, Terry, I want you to understand is we really appreciate you investing in this community, and we're going to work with you on this. Because it shows you believe in us and we believe in you. And we want that relationship to continue. Having said that, trustees, I'm going to open this up for discussion and questions.
Mr. Coons, in your letter of February 4th to Mr. Gray, it mentions that part of the remodeling is required by Ford Motor Company.
Yes, it is.
We have a handwritten list. I mean, without going through item by item at this point, can you identify, as long as it's not too many items, what is actually being required by Ford and what's optional?
Well, it's pretty extensive. A whole new front on the building.
Okay.
All new interior decoration, redecorating within the facility.
Okay.
A waiting area that provides entertainment, Wi-Fi, and refreshment area for the customers that wait. So beautification is the prime point, and they're looking for a standard image building across the country. And
So that every Ford dealer basically looks the same on the outside.
Pretty much the same as General Motors, huh?
Yep,
Yeah,
that's right,
yeah.
same thing. Yeah. They all learn the game in the same ballpark, I think.
So I suppose maybe an inverse to that question might be, what is on the list of remodeling that isn't required by Ford? Is there anything else you're
The
trying?
expansion of the drive-through service right-up area and
Okay.
service offices. And the expansion of the waiting room, we're going a little larger than they're requiring, simply because we do have a lot of waiters. Some days it's packed in the waiting room, and they drift over into the showroom. And that's okay. If they rub and touch the cars, that's good.
Mr. Coons, a follow-up question to trustee's question. On here, it's got a projected cost of the improvements is $1.2 million.
Mhm.
What amount of money or funds incentives is Ford Motor Company contributing to this project?
Ford Motor Company will come up with an amount half of what we spend, up to a total of $750,000.
So in essence, the $750,000 that he put out as the request part would be requesting your investment relative to what the corporation is investing.
Correct.
Or reimbursing. Okay.
Are you going to be increasing your stock at all? Are you going to be offering any additional different type of sales of any different type of vehicles, or?
Well, as you know, Ford's got an extensive improvement program on the car lines and truck lines right now. They're going to be, we'll probably see 10 new units this year. And I'm considering some other things for the property. As you know, we've got almost 20 acres there to develop, and I'm looking at that. We are going to expand the footprint of the lot in the near future. I'm hoping to do that 2 years down the road. And as far as product is concerned, I've given consideration to bring our RV operation here, which I presently have in Frankfurt, which would enhance our operation. Also, we're looking to expand our service into an extremely high-tech truck facility for major diesel work and selling heavy-duty Ford trucks.
So this is sort of
Or
a step one to what is a hope for
Yeah.
future.
I think the plan is to go 3 phases, and this is going to be our base of operation now. It used to be in Orland Park. We're moving that all here.
We greatly appreciate you moving from Orland to here.
Well,
You
we
know
like
where his
it.
original dealership was? Now an Undertaker, am I right?
Oh, is it
The
really?
last time I saw you.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, and it's
Original
like,
dealership, yeah.
yeah, and here when we moved into town, I always said we had a one-car showroom and the air conditioning was a screen door.
All right.
How long have you been here in Peotone?
I think almost 20 years now.
That long?
1989.
89.
Yep, August of
Oh, my
89.
gosh.
Yeah.
So
It's been a while.
is it fair to say that the difference between the 1.2 million you expect to spend and the 750 you're asking for in a rebate, is it fair to say the difference between those two numbers is what you would anticipate getting back from Ford Motor Company?
No.
No.
No, I don't think Ford will. It depends. I don't know what they'll participate in. But the major part of the expansion, they will not participate in the expansion of the drive-through. And they'll only contribute towards what it took to remodel the showroom into their, what do they call it?
Trustmark facility.
Trustmark facility.
Okay.
So the appearance remodeling, they'll participate.
They'll pay for the sign.
And
Maybe.
No, they're gonna finance it for me.
Oh, all right. Trustees, we need to have some discussion relative to directions we would like to go on this. And part of that would involve Mr. Kuntz's request for a total of, a cap of $750,000. There's another part of his request that has to do with the term, in terms of how long this would take. And I would strongly suggest that we've established, because of previous inducements, trying to look at a 10-year period for this term. And as far as format of payment, he has requested 90% the first year, 80%, and so on, down to a 50%, and leveling it at that point. I will entertain discussion on those items.
10-year with the option to renew.
We have done that in the past. It's the board's option.
Mr. Coons, do you have a proposed base for us to work off of?
The proposed base, your village manager got those records from.
It's in your
From the
your
state
sheet.
of
Right.
Illinois.
Is that something that you're in agreement with, using those 2 years of revenues?
Yes.
Yes, so
And
that's something you subscribe
Yeah,
to?
that's the fairest that I think we can do for the village. I mean, all we're asking to do is participate in the increased revenue we expect to earn for the village.
Okay.
I think part of the good news is, when we hear his expectations of where you're hoping the business will go at Ford, creating new lines that will perhaps bring new buyers in, that the increase of revenue over the basis, which is the amount that he's requesting back and which we're deciding how much of it we're going to give up, looks encouraging.
Yeah, we're gonna leave you as much as you've had.
Okay.
And, we'd like his participation on everything.
It's all said and done. I like the 10 years with the renewal of the option of the village.
Okay.
Is the idea of the decreasing annual percentage from 90 to 50 over 5 years, is that just to help with the immediate costs that you'll incur?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my most painless expense is always the front end. That's what you have to put out first. So.
Yeah.
Now, I think one of the terms we've previously considered on these kind of agreements was the period of time to complete the work as well. Is that, do you have a timeline in mind?
We expect to start as soon as weather allows.
Okay.
And we expect to finish before next year's weather sets in. So, you know, we're hoping for 90 days, but it could be a little longer.
Okay.
So, yeah, everything's pretty much geared up for that.
All right, we seem to have a consensus on the 10 years, I think.
10 plus 10.
Plus, yes.
What's the option for
Right.
village?
The base is the last year of the sales receipts from the Department of Revenue,
The one, yeah.
167, 218.
okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the cap, we've said, is 750.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing left open, I believe, is how do you want to, if you, assuming it sounds like you're wanting to go that route, how do you want to, what schedule do you want to use?
I think we're on record with the previous agreement of 50%.
Based on the difference in base used at that point, though, I would be willing to agree with the proposal of 90, 80, 70, 60, 50 over 5 years. I mean, I would subscribe to that because of the base that we're using. So I would feel comfortable with that.
The difference in the base is considerable,
Right.
comparing the two agreements, so.
I'm good with that scale.
All right, would seem justification.
So it would be 90, 80, 70, 60, and 5 to 10 is 50. Okay.
Okay.
I think one thing perhaps that we need to consider, or at least reserve, is with the option after the 10 years, what percentage we would pay out after that time. Is that something we want to reserve until we consider an option in the future?
Yeah, it would be, because any continuation beyond the 10 years would be the option of the village and would be essentially
It's open up, yeah.
renegotiated
The
at
contract.
whatever rate it would be.
It increases.
Yeah, right.
Back up to 90?
Mike, feel sorry for me.
No, we hope we're going to be cheering you because of
Okay.
your increased sales.
I hope so.
You'll be
That's why
done
we're
in
moving
5
here. We
years.
like cheers.
Okay,
Just
I
sell and
think
you'll
we've
be
got
done in 5.
the terms pretty much. This simply, now that we've got it, we will put this into an actual ordinance that spells it all out, and then vote on that officially at the next board meeting, which is in 2 weeks. But I think you can assume from the discussion here, it would be a favorable vote.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. If there are any questions, we'll be ready to answer.
And the ordinance will simply be adopting the agreement that you have a copy
Yeah.
of with these numbers plugged in, okay, as an exhibit. So you basically already have the narrative of the agreement, so.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda has to do with the independent inspection limited contract going forward. George? There we go, finally. A lot of papers here.
Independent Inspections Limited has a contract with the village to provide review of permits, plans, and permit inspection services. The prices for each service are stipulated in the contract. The village takes these charges, adds administrative costs, and adopts an ordinance that sets the various fees charged by the village to permit applicants. The ordinance amends the fee table found in the building code. IIL has forwarded a new contract with rate adjustments. The village entered into a contract with IIL in 2004, and IIL has not had a fee increase since that time. Should the village accept a new contract, consideration will need to be made regarding the final fee schedule. Those are two separate decisions, two separate steps. If no change is made to the existing fee structure to the village code, the village will lose money because we are absorbing the rate increase from IIL on most transactions. The board has long had a position to make the building department as self-sufficient as possible. The board may want to consider raising the fees in the ordinance proportionate to the IIL increase, but that's a separate decision. The building administrator for IIL ran a model to review the cost impact should the village amend fees to reflect the IIL increases. For the construction of a new 2,380 square foot single-family dwelling, the basic fees would increase from $1,674 to $1,842, or $168. I will tell you that in an email this morning, I received a model done by the corporate headquarters at IIL. Pardon me, and theirs came out with a fee increase of $179, which is basically, since they were talking to one another, it's basically how they did the habitable and non-habitable areas. So, I mean, this gives you a very good ballpark as to what that fee increase means on the construction of a new dwelling. So you have before you the change in the fee increase. I will also tell you, we received this midweek last week, and we had to get the packet out, but there are some changes that I will try to have highlighted for you at the next meeting. But to just briefly go over them, if you look at your copy of the contract for services, the actual contract, if you go to item 3E, it says regular municipal office availability for meeting the public is by appointment. By appointment is new language, but that's frankly the practice we have now. Item F, a staff of specialists is available to assist in building code enforcement. They used to have zoning in there, but quite candidly, they never did it. That's one of the things that we still do on our end, is the zoning review. But that, I mean, setbacks, percent of lot coverage, that kind of stuff. Okay. In G, this may have just been an oversight, but it talks about levels of insurance coverage. They have not included automobile, umbrella, or workman's comp. And of course, they've got to have workman's comp, so we need to touch base with them and see what's going on with that. Okay. Item 4, about 3/4 of this is new language. However, it all goes back to technical questions as to should we stop service with IIL for any reason. Our ability, it's basically a non-compete clause. We can't hire their inspector or their building administrator for X number of months. That was in the old language. It's all this, who provides inspection services of 25 inspections or more during the 12-month. From there, basically to the end, is new language. Okay. Item 5, at the end of the termination notice, any permits received prior, this is just clarifies, again, if we should cease service with them, exactly how does, if they've got a permit hanging, do they get paid or not, that they've already done the review on. Okay. Item 8 on page 3, that's entirely new language. I don't know that it has any impact on us, except we do our own sidewalk and driveway inspections, so that's something we'll have to look into. Item 9, if you go down about halfway down, there's a line that begins with expense arising out of any act or omission of the municipality or its employees. That or its employees is new language. You get down to item 11. This is just a clarification. Well, first is a clarification. If you go to the second line in there, it says requested for permits issued prior to the agency and court legal appearances by inspector when testimony information is required relative to agent responsibilities. That and court legal all the way down to responsibilities is new language. That we've never had occasion to use that, but we would use the hourly rate anyway. They've just incorporated it into the contract. The fee for property maintenance, complaint inspections, inspections requested for permits prior to the agency, and the court appearances used to be $42 an hour, now it's $48. If it's outside normal business hours, as defined in the contract, which is 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, then it's used to be $55, now it's $61. I don't know that we ever used that, but in the 10 years we've been with them, but those are to be noted. And through my inspection from this morning, those are the main changes I've seen to the narrative.
Have we looked into other inspection companies other than this one?
No, we have not.
I know the fees, they're offering these, the new fees to reflect for the construction. They're pretty much in line. Moni's fees for the same basic dwelling is $1,800, so it's pretty close to the same fees. But in this contract too, I didn't see anything, any type of a guarantee for a time allowed to complete an inspection. I mean, is there anything that, there's nothing in the
There is,
contract?
well, and I guess it's not in the contract, I think it's in, I have to see, but it is in writing that it's 48 hours for an inspection at the max. 24, I'm sorry, I forgot.
48 hours.
48 hours for an inspection.
Is there a reason why it's not in the contract?
Let me see, maybe it used to be in the attachment and it isn't, in the fee structure. Because they've redone that.
Make a note on it and check it. Okay, in this contract, we've had them for 10 years now, and this new contract would be for what period?
Until we serve notice, or they serve notice. It's a recurring contract.
Okay, and the fee structure during the term of it would be changed only when we're served notice?
It would be changed, we would have to enter into a different, just like we're doing now, we'd be entering into a new contract because the fees are incorporated into the contract, so.
So this is locked in for as long as we do business with them? Okay. I think one of the statements made earlier about it has been the practice of the village to match the fees we charge to the fees that have to be paid out, so that we're not in the business of losing money on new construction and remodels. I believe that we would like to see that also continued on. So, trustees, any other things you're seeing? Okay, so having heard what the board has to say, then you will come back with the next meeting with?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll look into some of those questions that we had, I'll look into the 48 hours. I know it's in their handouts, but I remembered it being in the contract, but it's not in the old one either, so.
In the process of revising, sometimes things get dropped unintentionally too. All right, and that would be, we would have to do the fee structure thing as an ordinance then?
That would be a separate ordinance. We'd probably have a resolution to enter into the IIL contract.
Okay.
And then we'd have to have an independent ordinance that would amend the building code fees.
Seal to the no.
Okay. So we get a two-step, or do we do that at the same meeting, or do we?
We can't do it at the same meeting.
All right. I think you got direction on that one. All right, with no further discussion on independent inspections contract or the fee structure connected with it, I'll move on to the next item, which is grant scope of work. Discussion of the scope of work for the Illinois Bond Fund infrastructure grant. George?
The village has received $100,000 in grant money from the state of Illinois. The source of the funds is the infrastructure bonds sold by the state a few years ago. Projects must be a bondable expenditure, which translates into capital projects. Wages, routine supplies, and maintenance are not eligible. In order to proceed with the grant application, staff needs direction on projects the board may want to pursue. If necessary, we will try to obtain cost estimates for the next board meeting if possible. The grant documents, it's interesting. Say we have 2 years to complete the project, but they also have language that says the grant term may not begin any earlier than July 1, 2013. And I suspect that's due to delays at the state level in processing and getting this program going, quite candidly. It's not the first time we've run into something like this.
So we have a year and a couple months.
Yeah, well,
No.
July 1, 13.
Last year.
That's, yeah, I read 14 the first time, and I had to go back and read it again. I currently have an email into the program director asking, do we have 2 years or 1 year? I don't know that it makes that much difference, but it's something you need to know. I would hope we would use the money this coming fiscal year. So I'm just open, I think I forwarded a list of potential projects. I listed a couple other things in the memo earlier. Some lights downtown and things like that.
Would the enclosure of our, at
The sewer tank?
yeah,
plant?
would that be,
Possibly.
okay.
George, I didn't have a list of potential projects. Is it?
It's right, okay, some of the potential, some of the bond eligible projects are in the left-hand column in your information sheet. Those are
Right.
supplied by DCEO. And I issued a memo 3 weeks ago when I
Oh,
first heard about
You're
it.
talking about?
Yeah, and in that memo, I had a couple projects.
Mhm.
One of them was the lights downtown, and we could always do generators and things like that, so.
Like, more or less, you can also do like a downtown facelift.
We have to, depends on what you mean by that, because it has to be a village project. We have to use prevailing wage, and it has to be on property that we own.
What about a new public works garage?
If we could get that done in a year, I don't know, a year or 2 years, depending on what the final term of that is.
At the old,
Yes.
I've mentioned it previously, but if it's at all possible, I think we need a walking or bike path of some sort, even if it's crushed limestone, down to the McDonald's area.
Yeah, we've talked about that with the county, about putting a bike path in lieu of a sidewalk. We couldn't get a sidewalk all the way from McDonald's all the way down to Ratchy Road so the kids could cross the street. It's been going on for numerous years, as much as the stop and go light. But that's an issue. So the kids will walk on something rather than just the road.
Is it possible to go behind, perhaps through right-of-way or something, behind the car wash, behind Casey's, into Gold Land? I mean, I don't know if there's an entrance into Gold Landings that way, but...
There is okay, I've not looked at the plat. I have been told there is a small right-of-way between two houses at the northeast corner, but I've never confirmed that.
Because we could avoid county property, provided we could get private agreements if we went that way, correct?
You'd have to go through base property,
Yeah.
Base property?
Yeah.
right there, just west of the bank.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the county has what, I don't know what the right away from the curb to the,
It's big.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I used to know and I
It's a
forgot.
substantial piece, and you would service Casey's and McDonald's, and, this is, We have that in our records back here someplace.
It-
We
And
did
and
it.
I used to have it in my head and I've forgotten, but it goes almost to the front of the Chinese restaurant.
I mean,
Can we look into that, even if it's not
given
something
the,
that we do this time,
Okay?
as far as that right away?
Okay, I looked it up back in 2010 when we applied for a grant. That was a $210,000 project.
if it's a sidewalk,
Well, yeah,
Okay.
let's back up a little bit.
No, it's a bike path. They wouldn't
Yeah.
let you have a sidewalk.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's
Well,
not what
it's a bike-
that's not what you're, I'm simply saying we'll work back from there, okay?
but what was 210 specifically?
210 was specifically included almost 40,000 in engineering that would have been required, and about 160, and that was for either a 4 or a 6 foot wide paved, asphalt
Asphalt.
Yeah.
We're talking
bike
asphalt.
path,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, that just gives you a ballpark. And perhaps our engineers, I mean, first of all, these are state funds, so there may be some state requirements we have to meet regarding the design of it. And if so, what kind of things do you think a state agency might approve? Would they approve a limestone path? How many feet wide?
I would think they would probably want paved, and the very minimum for a bike path or multi-use trail, as they call it, is 8 feet, and usually they want 10. It's depending on the volume of expected, users. There'd also be requirements for clear zones, at least 3 feet away from any poles or, and it would just depend if the county would allow it in the right of way or if there's somewhere else you can put it.
Still, there's a major cost factor, significant cost factor.
I think it's
Well,
a-
I'm sorry.
I think it's a matter of time before there's another injury like the one that happened last year on that road. Kids walk to and from McDonald's, they ride their bikes. It's got to be done. I mean, someone got hurt very badly, and it's going to happen again. I think we need to really extend ourselves to see what's available to try to make it happen.
Let me, I don't know if this gentleman, if the contract is going to be, the program director is going to be able to answer that without referring to someplace else. I'll see if that's something that they would accept.
Okay,
The $210,000 that you said, that was for the entire project though? Not
That
just,
was to go from Rathje Road
Ratchy Road to,
but that's paved.
to Oriole Drive, if I recall correctly.
I know prices have gone up some since then, but this is going to pay for almost half of that, if we can do it.
And again, if we can look into the option of going through the subdivision, we'd have to look at the right of ways for that instead of going on their land.
And the various materials available as well.
As I said, even if we don't do it this time, if we're just looking into it, so we know.
I'm trying to remember now, because I know the issue was concrete. It started with a sidewalk, but that was way off the scope.
yeah.
And then we came up with the bike path, because that was the offer, and we were turned down for that grant. We were gonna run that path from McDonald's all the way to Ratchy, and then, once the new Ratchy Road was in, we were gonna put a bike path on the street itself, like they do in Chicago, for just bicycles, so the kids could get to the park or to the school, wherever they wanna go,
Another consideration might also be going through the subdivision that's across the street from Casey's. It extends,
The Meadows.
the Meadows, it extends pretty far towards the McDonald's area. I mean,
One of the issues you'll have, because we
it's
we
been
discussed
considered.
all these things.
Okay.
One of the issues, you didn't have multiple crossings on a 4-lane road, and one of those crossings is going to be where there isn't an intersection,
Okay.
which requires additional signalization, okay? I mean, that's what we got, Troy wasn't involved at that
Yeah.
point, but that's what we got into the last time we researched it, and that's why we went on the north side instead of the south side.
And those are the things that bump the cost up hugely, so.
But
Well,
let me,
the other
let me s-
considerations for the businesses where the kids were going. Kids wanted to go to McDonald's. They wanted, at that time, that wasn't a Chinese restaurant, even. It was a tasty foods
Right,
there.
very
You know, and that's where the kids, that's where they came up with, the kids running across the street.
I mean, I would expect that those business owners would want to have
Plus you get some
foot
walking traffic.
traffic on their own property. So the owners of the properties may be willing to accommodate right-of-ways.
Well, you'd be through county right of way, even, even Casey's Entrance, for example, and a large part of the parking of the Chinese restaurant is on county right of way.
Right.
So.
You know, the
you don't
issue,
need
the
permission
strange
from the
issue with
business
that
people.
was the residents from that subdivision was here complaining about that. When we talked about that years ago.
About putting it in?
They were at opposition to having it.
Interesting.
Kids get run over by cars. And,
I had the same problem with the stoplight. It's going on, what, 10, 12 years?
Yeah.
I still want to see it before I die, I tell you.
Hang in there for another year or two.
Besides the bike path, I think.
May not make it.
The building covering or equipment over at sewer plant is something that should be looked at. And then, as Trustee Hupkey said, the Public Works building.
And Rich, you previously, sorry, Mr. Mayor, you previously had an idea for improving the railroad side of Railroad Street, the buildings, and the possible mural program and things. I mean, is there any, I don't know if that ever made it anywhere, but maybe there's some use.
We had put it for a grant with the National Endowment for the Arts, and it came at a time when they cut all those grants out.
Okay. I mean, so perhaps that could be an idea, improving the facade, if you will, of the railroad side of those streets and trying to improve that area.
I would have to look. They talked about artwork in there. I'd have to see.
Yeah.
You said watching $100,000 doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were looking at that for a lot less than that, so it'd be part of it. Okay, so we have on the list the Public Works Building.
Enclosure at the sewer plant.
Enclosure.
Sewer plant.
Closed sewer plant area.
Bike path.
Bike path.
Just to throw it out there, is there any other, are we on schedule for any other generators?
Yeah, we're doing the 5-year plan. The next up will be a generator period at the Wilmington Road lift station. That's our next critical lift station.
And what was the cost of the last one we did?
40 to 50,000, I think.
How many more do we need to do total?
Well, I think we've got 3 more total, though 2 of them are not critical because they have low flows and they can be down for a little bit.
So maybe.
Another critical one, frankly, is the one at the sewer plant because the generator at the sewer plant only powers half the plant.
Yeah, and when we ran into the flood, the big rainfall a while back, and Jim had to go out there and babysit because it would overload for a short period, and then if you get it past that initial startup, it would work. So
If you're saying that we did $35,000 or $40,000, maybe add 2 of them on that list too, as a possible.
We can look at generators, lift station generators.
okay.
I don't think 100,000 is going to cover a generator at the sewer plant. Jim has an estimate. I don't remember off the top of my head what it is. We can have a ballpark number for you.
Well, if we can get the other 2 done and then save up for the bigger one.
Okay. We'll have some of this information for you hopefully by the next meeting. If not, we'll be making an effort to get cost estimates, ballpark cost estimates.
Okay.
Did you write some of these down, Troy? Okay.
Yeah. When do we have to decide this? Quickly, isn't it?
Well, Yes, but some of it boils down to what do they mean by can't start before July 1st of 2013? Was that a typo, or has the program really been that long in coming to the, because we just got word of this like 6 days ago, okay? I'll take that back. We actually got notified we were going to get the money 2 or 3 years ago. And they basically said, we'll send you details at a later time. Well,
2 years later.
the later time is now, okay? And I shot an email to Mr. Kurt Verdine, who's the program director here for this project. And I should hope, he's usually pretty responsive, so I hope to have an answer back tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest. I don't think it's like the first week in March. I think we probably need to have something selected because I've got an application I have to complete on, after you've made your selection. It takes a little bit of time to generate. But I would hope we would make a selection by maybe the end of March. If nothing else, we've got to include the funding in our budget.
Okay.
And we need to know, well, it doesn't have to be project specific, it has to be at least department specific.
Okay. So, likely that we would have this information for the next meeting or the first meeting in March?
Well, I will try to have a timeline. We should definitely have a timeline by the next meeting. We will try very hard to have some cost estimates by the next meeting. If not, it may be the first part of March. I'm sure we'll have some of them. I can't guarantee we'll have all of them.
Okay. All right. Then we can make our decision at that point in time. It's good discussion, though. We've got a lot of ideas out there, so that in some cases, it's a part payment towards a bigger expense. In other cases, it's a matter of maybe we can get 2 or 3 little things done that benefit the village down the way. We'll make that decision after we look at the numbers when they come in. All right. If there's nothing further on that, I'm going to move down the agenda. Okay. We're going to be going into an executive session shortly on the topic of personnel, and I'll talk more about it in a minute. But I want to kind of skip down and do a couple of other things before we do that, in the way of announcements and the like. One thing is, I'm sure most of the other trustees have noticed in their neighborhood, we've got some really nice folks who got snow throwers who have gone through and done sidewalks and helped folks who are a little bit older take care of their drives during this huge snowstorm. And I want to just, publicly comment and thank those good Samaritans who go nameless. I got somebody who's been doing my sidewalk and the whole block. And I've never seen the person do it because by the time I realize it's been done, like the masked man, he's disappeared. Nowhere to thank. But it's a great service to the community, and it shows pride. It shows, what's part of the core of this community. And I wanted to acknowledge that. I also want to make note of the fact that we have rescheduled the State of the Village message, which was originally scheduled a week or so ago, because of the screwball of cold weather and everything else that we've had. We've moved it to March 11th from 6 to 7 p.m., still at the high school auditorium, and we're going to be getting more information out on that. But that's March 11th from 6 to 7 p.m. Now, is there any other announcement that needs to be made before I put us into the executive session? Hearing none, I would request a motion to go into executive session on the topic of personnel concerning the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by trustee Hupkey, seconded by trustee Forsythe, to go into executive session on the topic of personnel, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Hupkey.
Yes.
Mr. Forsythe.
Yes.
Mr. Callahan.
Yes.
Mr. Hack.
Yes.
Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Mr. Ray.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. We'll go into executive session.